Hello, everybody. Welcome into the PHLY Phillies podcast. I am Jamie Lynch, and with me is Tyler Zulli. Renee is off on vacation. We will be joined by John Foley from Citizens Bank Park when this one concludes. But Tyler, I'm feeling like this one, we pretty much know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, this thing got got away from them. One bad inning, and the unfortunate part is, especially for Sir Anthony Dominguez, but for the team as a whole, that eighth inning wasn't like he really wasn't getting hit around all that hard. It's not like he had terrible command issues. We were talking about it before the show started. That inning, Machado 75 off the bat, single. The error, the Alec Boehm error, 69 off the bat. The triple
Nice.
from Higgy. 78 off the bat. Like, they weren't getting hit hard here, or Dominguez wasn't getting hit hard. They just, they found spots. Brandon Marsh makes an attempt. Probably should stay on his feet with that one if he doesn't feel like he's definitely going to catch it, because then you clear the base. But, it was one of those innings that kind of just unraveled and snowballed really, really quickly.
Yeah, if you're just joining us, though, the Phillies do take the series from the San Diego Padres, even if they come back and get the sweep miraculously in the bottom of the ninth. But weird things happen in baseball, Tyler. The Dodgers scored seven runs in the ninth inning last night to beat the Rockies. So you never say never.
Yeah, and I think Jake Cave his head may have exploded off his shoulders at one point. That was wild.
Yeah, that was a crazy game last night. My boy Teoscar continues his tear of the first half of the season.
Yeah, you were on with him. We talked about him in the offseason, and the one thing with him that I couldn't wrap my head around was another guy who strikes out as much as he does, but the power's been there. I mean, he's been a gap to gap hitter. The OPS is high. And as we talked about yesterday, we voted him into the All-Star game on our All-Star ballot for a reason. The guy's been good this year.
Yeah, Jose Ruiz just gets beat to first base there. If you're watching the game along with us, look like they had a sure second out there, but I think he's safe.
That's one play, and I'm not going to sit here and harp on anybody, because the pitcher needs to get over and cover as well. And I'm not going to sit here and harp on Bryce Harper's defense, because it has been sensational, especially for a guy that's just starting that position and really taking the reins for the full time for the first time in his career. That's such a timing play, and it's such a quick split decision. Am I going to take it to the bag myself? Am I going to flip it to the pitcher? It's a timing thing between the pitchers and your first baseman, and it only comes with time, and it only comes with reps. To me, I've said this to you guys before, that was my least favorite play as a first baseman. I hate it flipping it to the pitcher. And it's such an easy, underhand toss, but you're leading the guy. You're trying to time it out. And that's
trying not to lead him into the runner.
Yeah, you don't want to lead him into the runner. You don't want to throw it over his head. You don't want to spike it. There's a lot that can go wrong on a 10-foot flip. And it's really just a timing thing. It's you grow with that, and you don't get to do it. You really don't kind of become good at that until you do it in the game.
Yeah, so Phillies have one out here in the top of the ninth. Manny Machado up at the plate now. He is, I noticed in this game, quite slow. He's like Castellanos slow.
He was never fast.
No.
He was always...
He's a big man.
Yeah, he's a big dude. But he's gotten slower over
time.
He was never a fleet-footed guy, but he just does not get out of the box at all.
No. Did you catch Tom McCarthy reading the numbers about Kyle Schwarber versus the Padres in his career?
Oh, it's insane. I mean,
forget June Schwarber. It's Padre killer Schwarber. God,
this team for the most part has had the Padres number over the last, couple of years specifically. Yeah. But we saw it when they were at Petco. The numbers at Petco are just off the charts good. This is, and teams change, personnel changes, managers change, the good and the bad. I'm a huge believer that sports are cyclical. The Phillies are going to suck at some point, maybe in the next decade. Let's just, that's just the nature of sports, right? There's a likelihood that a good team is going to be bad and a bad team is going to be good, just based on the cyclical nature of sports. But to have the consistency to be okay, we're playing San Diego and we just have their number. There's a little bit of a head check to that. There's an emotional tie to say, we just got this team, no matter who's on the team and who's on our team.
Speaking of, possible downturns, you need your farm system to bear fruit for those to be avoided. I don't know if you read Rich's email this morning from allphly.com, but if you're not subscribed, do it. I feel like I hawk it every day because there's great information in it.
It's quite good.
Yeah, one of the things he had in it today, because it's very Phillies centric, Sixers obviously are getting ready for the draft party. And of course, we have a PHLY Sixers draft party coming up on the 26th at Garage North in Fishtown. So if anybody out there wants to join the Sixers guys, I think me and you and Renee are going to try and swing by if we can. And hopefully some more people from the station are out there. But the newsletter is very Phillies heavy these days. And one of the things today, and like his throwaway links, here's Marshawn trying to throw. Damn. Launch that one in the center field. One of the things today was a scout. I forget who it was. I'll have to dig up the email. But a scout within the system told, is it Bob Knighton? Whoever it was, they told that Aiden Miller might be the best prospect they've had in their system since Mike Schmidt.
Wow.
Think about that.
Wow. I mean, we have pretty collectively
pull that up.
Sung the praises of Aiden Miller. Like he has quickly risen up the ranks, and we talked about him. Renee and I did a couple weeks ago. Whether he ends up being a third baseman, ends up being a shortstop, like Preston Mattingly's been pretty adamant that he's a shortstop, and him playing shortstop most of the time, is pretty indicative that they want to see him as a everyday shortstop.
Trey's an eventual outfielder.
But whether he's a shortstop or a third baseman, I feel really, really good about the ascension that he's made and the timeline just fitting so well with when this team is going to need him. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think this guy's going to be an elite level all-star MVP caliber player, but I think I'm pretty close to saying I'm fairly confident this kid's a Major League Baseball player.
Yeah, I mean, he's an untouchable. It was from Steve Phillips. And again, this is on Rich's email. Go to allphly.com. It's a free newsletter. It's awesome. Steve Phillips, a scout. And Steve Phillips, used to be a GM, very connected in baseball still. A scout in the Phillies organization said Aiden Miller is the best prospect we've had since Mike Schmidt, the former Mets GM, said. I read that, and I wasn't even wearing socks, and they got knocked off. I was like, whoa. That is some big praise. So hopefully the downturn doesn't happen, because hopefully that we have the next Mike Schmidt in the system.
Well, and I mean, think about it too. Like, none of that is a foregone conclusion, but the fact remains there has been some good years with the Phillies farm system where Jimmy Rollins comes through the ranks, Chase Utley comes through the ranks, Ryan Howard comes through the ranks. And then there's been some really lean years where like your best prospect was Don Brown and it didn't pan out. Your best prospect was Spencer Howard, and he didn't pan out. Now, both of those guys ended up being Major League players, but not very productive Major League players for the most part. To say that this is the best prospect that you've seen since a Hall of Fame third baseman is really, really telling of how much they like this kid. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think accelerating him as quickly as they did tells you they like him a lot, because they go, okay, he needs to be challenged more. Like he's already answered the bell that quickly at the low A level. They're like, all right, high A, let's go. Kid needs to be challenged. And, it's great stuff. So a little bit of a check-in on Aiden Bauer Miller there, but he's really exciting. We're going to have to get out to Jersey very soon. Sorry, go ahead.
My guess with him is he probably ends the year in Jersey Shore. I don't think they want to accelerate him too quickly. But if he continues to mark, like he hits all these check marks, there's no reason for me to think that he maybe doesn't start 2025 in Reading.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Jersey Shore team is, it's got like the heart of the Phillies prospects.
Yeah, it's a good team. Right
there's a lot of good players there right now. So hopefully those dark days don't come anytime soon. But if you're just joining us, the Phillies are likely going to lose this one. They're down 5-2 in the bottom of the ninth. Brandon Marsh leading it off. I guess the story of today, Ranger Suarez was great. We'll get to him and his family because that was really cool. Bryce Harper mashed 2 balls. But I think the story of the game was Waldron was terrific for the Padres. He kind of had the Phillies, a little off tilt with the knuckleball. First one they faced since R.A. Dickey in 2017. So it's not something you see hardly ever. Waldron was spectacular for them today. And I think even T-Mac said it, outside of those 2 starts we mentioned on the show yesterday, he's had like a sub 2 ERA for the rest of the year or something. So he was spectacular today.
Yeah, and it's really, really hard to hit a knuckleball pitcher when they're on. Because of the factors of the knuckleball. It's a completely unpredictable pitch. It screws guys up for weeks at a time sometimes. And you brought up, R.A. Dickey and the guys that they've faced over the years that have been, really good knuckleball pitchers. But the two things that stood out to me today were, one, he used it at a much more frequent rate than he has across the course of the season. I think he was using it at about 32, I think they said 32% of the time this year. I think that today he threw it almost 50% of the time, which is, I don't know if that's a product of trusting the knuckleball more, or I don't know if that's a product of, you've got a really good lineup ahead of you and you want to
let me F with him a little bit. Yeah.
It could be a little bit of both. The second thing that you notice is Matt Waldron's hardest thrown pitch today was 92.8 miles an hour.
Yeah.
His softest thrown pitch was 68.6 miles an hour. That's a 24-mile-an-hour discrepancy between your hardest thrown fastball and your softest thrown knuckleball. When you're throwing good knuckleballs and it's dancing, and you can parlay that backdoor sweeper that we saw him throw to lefties a handful of times, and then all of a sudden you throw 91, 92, it looks like a billion. 92 might as well be 192 because you're seeing this thing dance up there with no spin, and then he comes with the hard fastball. And listen, his fastball doesn't move a lot. He doesn't throw all that hard, major league speaking. But when you're seeing 77, 78, and then all of a sudden it's 92, you go, what the hell was that? Where'd you amp that up at?
Yeah, I can't imagine how different 24 miles an hour is to these guys. It's just like,
yeah.
Sometimes you see stuff that like Pitching Ninja puts out, or, you see a particular Waldron pitch today. And you just go, how the hell does anybody hit that ever? But Bryce Harper, it was funny. Larry Anderson, I think it was Nick Pacone, put out the radio call of Bryce Harper's first home run, and LA about 10 seconds before the home run goes, Harper's probably going to be looking for something to swing at first pitch here. If not, I'd sit back and take a couple pitches and make them work. Sure enough, Harper walks into the box, first pitch, bang, out to left center field. And then he gets the second one late here, right down the right foul line. But Tyler, when Bryce Harper hits an opposite field home run, it's almost like it every time.
Oh yeah, it's Ryan. The same thing with Ryan Howard, right?
Yeah.
When Ryan Howard was at his best, the home runs that meant the most to me was when he was letting the ball get deep on him, and his bat speed was enormous. His bat speed was enormous, and so Bryce Harper's bat speed is the same way. And you let it get deep, and you take it the other way, and it feels like there's no doubt about it. And there's nothing that, as an opposing pitcher, you can do when a hitter of that strength and of that caliber is allowing pitches to get deep and taking them the other way and putting them like 8 rows deep. That to me is, especially for left-handed hitters, if you're going opposite field and going left center field and driving the ball to left center field, that to me means you have the capability of controlling your bat head all the way through the zone, even if you get beat, your front foot, whatever the case may be. That tells me you have utmost control of the bat head right now.
Yeah, Bryce looks locked in. His first home run since returning back from the England trip stateside. So that's really good to see. There's some positives of this series as it is official now. David Dahl makes the last out there. Phillies go down 5-2 in the game today, but they do take the series from the Padres. We'll talk about last night's spectacular walk-off. That was really cool. There was a lot of positives from this series. I think mainly the two big ones. It was great to see Ranger Suarez and Christopher Sanchez go out there and be great again. Yeah, Aaron Nola outside of 1 inning was spectacular. So your starting pitching for the most part was really, really good.
Yeah, I think so. And more than anything, the positive of this series is they won the series. Yeah. Right. So, you drop back-to-back series, you drop the one in Boston, you drop the one in Baltimore. And I think we can all chalk that up to a couple of things. A lot of travel, probably some heavy legs, a little bit of a depleted bench and a depleted, just a lot going on. Plus you go to Baltimore, you play a really freaking good baseball team who just beats you. And, you just tip the cap and you go, hell of a series, boys. We'll see you in October. And to come back here, to get back to Citizens Bank Park, to be able to jump on them the way that you did on Friday night, to have a comeback win the way that you did, or Friday night, excuse me, on Monday night, to have a comeback win the way that you did last night, even losing today, the overarching positive of this series is you won the series.
Yeah. Yeah, last night's win was a lot of fun. We'll get into that and some more of today's game. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at Sleep Healthy PA. At Sleep Healthy PA, they are committed to bringing Philadelphia residents stop the snore and find solutions for sleep apnea that will allow you to rest well and improve your health. What causes sleep apnea? There's a novel idea. Get to the root of it. It's a choke point in the throat that causes snoring. Think of like a kink in the garden hose. Well, Dr. Andrew Cohen, who's board certified in dental sleep medicine, and his staff will work one-on-one with you to provide first-class care that will meet your needs. Many physicians aren't equipped to provide other options outside of CPAP machines, and CPAP machines can be loud and cumbersome and just annoying. 50% of divorces cite snoring as a main issue. So this is, it's a pain for a lot of couples. So Dr. Andrew wants to help you get through it. Based in Jenkintown, he's worked for years to educate dentists across the country for his personal approach to helping those with sleep apnea. His team is committed to stopping the snore. Just simply tell him PHLY sent you, and you'll receive 15% off your initial workup. The process is simple. 2-hour exams split into 2 sessions. One is information gathering, medical history, and imaging. The second, they go over results, share recommendations. So if you or somebody you know is experiencing sleep apnea and you're looking for a custom solution to stop the snore, reach out to Dr. Andrew Cohen at sleephealthypa.com or call 215-337-2501. Tell them PHLY sent you.
Yeah, I hate to tell you guys this because we saw it this weekend and we saw it in Boston. Philly fans travel. That's the good news. The bad news is Philly fans also like to sell out their own stadium because Citizens Bank Park is a hotbed for baseball right now. And that means that your best bet to get tickets is the Game Time app, because you're going to use the Game Time app as one of the official authorized purchasers and ticket sellers of Major League Baseball. And guys, I used the Game Time app this past weekend. I took my dad down to Baltimore for Father's Day. It was a blast. We had awesome seats. And Jamie, you always talk about the seat locator and where you can see your seat on the on the app. You get a good picture. And it came in handy on Saturday because I sat us down kind of down the third base line, a little caddy corner to home plate, and we were out of the sun the entire game. We were in the shade. It was like 10 degrees cooler in the shade than it was in the sun. And I turned to my dad and said, I had two choices. They were kind of this section and the other section across the way. And man, I am glad we picked these seats because we sat in the shade the entire time.
Good work by you. That's good work.
On top of that, you get killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and the lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. So what you're going to do is you're going to download the Game Time app, and you are going to use the promo code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. You can get last-minute deals, flash deals. All-in pricing is one of my favorite things. I hate fees, and when I get an opportunity to know exactly what I'm paying, it makes me feel a little bit better about the money that I'm spending, because I don't get hit the last minute with, hey, here's some extra fees. So you use the Game Time app. It's all-in pricing. All you got to do is slide the little slider to the right, and you're going to know exactly how much you're going to pay before you go to your checkout. So again, use the promo code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Use Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.
Well, Tyler, you know me pretty well. We go a ways back.
We do.
Today was a special day because not only was my sweet, adorable boy Ranger on the mound, and I had the utmost confidence that he was going to go out and even lower that ERA that was already spectacular of his, but for the first time as a professional, his wife and children got to see him pitch for the first time, as they are now here with him for the remainder of the season. I think they talked to Alex Coffey and said, they're so excited to be able to come to the ballpark on the regular and see Ranger pitch. But wild that they had never seen him pitch professionally. He went out there. Only the third time a left-handed batter has taken him deep in his career. He was spectacular again. Ranger was awesome today, and such a cool moment for the Suarez family to be there watching it.
Yeah, for sure. And quite frankly, the ball that Jackson Merrill took him deep on, it wasn't a terrible pitch. I mean, it was in on the hands a little bit. You could kind of tell where he was set up. Merrill, I don't want to say he didn't throw the front shoulder, because you throw the front shoulder, you're screwed. But he opened up a little bit to I think he kind of knew that pitch was coming. It was not a bad pitch, but he did a really good job of anticipating it. Got the front shoulder open, squared the ball up, and turned on it, and took it into right field. It was a good swing by a young kid who it looks to be, Jamie, a hell of a hitter. And I think he's going to be a really good player for a really long time. But yeah, you're right. I thought, Ranger was sharp today, even when I thought there were times where his command wasn't particularly strong. And you could tell he was almost fighting himself a little bit, where I think the changeup kind of gave him a little bit of fits. He threw one at like 74, and it was up in the zone. And I'm sitting here by myself. There's no one home. And I was just talking to myself, and I went, ooh, don't throw that one again. Yeah. But, listen, he's been so good at battling out of situations because he doesn't have the blow you away fastball. He doesn't have the killer slider, but he's such a professional pitcher. He's done such a tremendous job of getting out of those situations. And even when he is getting hit, he's so good at keeping that composure, keeping that demeanor. It's just what we've come to expect from Ranger Suarez at this point. Another really strong 6 innings from him.
Yeah, and then bullpen-wise, Orion came in, didn't really seem like he had his normal break on the sweeper. Didn't seem like he was really fooling guys out there today, kind of labored through a lot. And yes, Matt Deckard, it does feel like every time we've done post-game show recently, it's been a loss. So maybe this is on us.
Well, we did have Friday night. That was a good one.
It's true. And the Gall & Co. first show was a win. So not all, but it does feel like we
took an hour rain delay in us to start drinking bourbon. But
so Orion kind of didn't have it today, which is fine because he's been pretty tremendous for the past, 6 weeks or so. I'm just going to chalk it up to one of those days. Sir Anthony, as we talked about, came in. It's kind of, again, I'm not really worried about him. It was one of those things we talked about. They weren't making hard contact on the ball, and it was just one of those things. So the bullpen and then Ruiz closed it out there. You kind of preserve your bullpen a little bit here. Bullpen for the most part, not a great day, but they've been pretty great this series. So all in all, the pitching was really good this series. Not too much to complain about there.
No, I mean, there's really not. I think that, they did a really nice job of shutting things down yesterday, especially towards the back end, latter portions of the game. This bullpen's been elite for a bulk of the season. And the 4 guys that you've got in the back end of the bullpen, I trust every single one of them. I trust Alvarado. I trust Strom. I trust Hoffman. I trust Kerkering. These days are going to happen. It was a little bit of a flat sweeper. And when we talked about Kerkering's fastball usage and how it really helps him play off that sweeper, but when you become kind of almost a one-pitch pitcher, or your best pitch isn't hitting its mark, it leads to a little bit of command issues, or it leads to kind of guys zoning in on one pitch. It's one day. I don't expect this to be a trend. I don't expect this to continue. It was one outing. It happened. And like you talked about, the Dominguez inning, it was a weird inning. I give a ton of credit to Ozokar as a base runner. That's a beautiful play, just an absolute smart play to get your body in front of Alec Boehm, kind of position yourself right over where you're just going to hop the ball as it comes in. Really made it difficult for him and Sosa to make a play. They didn't get hit hard. I mean, at least Dominguez didn't get hit hard. They just, as Richie Ashburn used to say, hit them where they ain't, right?
Yeah, and Ruiz came in and, took care of business pretty quick too. So all in all, Sir Anthony, he's still back. Orion has his first hiccup in several weeks. But Ranger was great. Christopher Sanchez was great. Aaron Nola was great. Now, offensively, of course, Bryce Harper looks like he could be honing in on one of those hot zones where he just can carry a team for a week or two. If you couple that with June Schwarber, my God, you might have, two with Aaron Judge, a little ding on the hand. You might have the 2 hottest hitters going in baseball pretty soon here. So offensively, those 2 are great. And then you can talk to Nick Castellanos. Looks like, last night was a lot of fun. Liam's there, really cool, but he's starting to hit the ball a little bit harder, starting to accumulate some extra base hits finally.
Yeah, I think that, that the at-bats have been better. Between he and Bohm this past weekend and into this series has been fantastic. We know what the weak points are of this offense, and they happen to play left and center field as of right now. And I don't mean Brandon Marsh is an eternal weak point. I'm talking about the platoon of whomever you're going to use out in those two spots. But Harper has swung a really good bat this series. Well, let me rephrase that. I think Harper. I don't think Harper had particularly strong at bats in Monday's game. The fact that everybody hit except him was kind of strange. 18 hits for the team, and his at bats looked a little bit off. But I thought he had two really good swings on the ball today that, he put into orbit on both of them.
Yeah.
Castellanos at bats have been better. Julian makes a good point. They have struggled pretty mightily with runners in scoring position, and they did it in this series. Maybe a little offensively lucky to come away with 2 victories, but the fact that you really only need 1 or 2 timely hits because the pitching's been so good. I'm not saying that you want to live and die with that game plan, but in the interim, when you struggle with runners in scoring position and your pitching staff keeps you in all of these ball games, it allows you to feel like you're right there. The difference between it being 3-2 last night, 3-2 or 4-3?
4-3, right?
4-3, right? Because it was 4. Schwarber made it 4-3, and then they tied up and win the game. The difference between it being 4-2 made it 4-3 versus it being like 7-3. It's an entirely different offensive mindset. You feel like you're in this game. So, yes, they did struggle with runners in scoring position at times this series. No doubt about it. They left the bases loaded in the first inning today.
First inning was rough, yeah.
Yeah, and I think they left either first and second or second and third at some point in this series as well. Concerning for sure, but you ended up winning 2 of these 3 games. I'm not going to complain too much about it until it does truly come to bite them.
Yeah, Rob Thompson speaking to the media now. So John Foley, once that concludes, will probably hop on and join us and fill us in on what Rob had to say. Yeah, I see the chat there is talking a little bit about the outfield. Yeah, I mean it needs an upgrading. Like,
oh, for sure.
I think we all think it's something that's going to happen.
Dave Dombrowski knows that.
Yeah, Johan. I see who asked it. Who did the thing where you hate to think about it. I hate to say it, but Rojas might have caught that one today. Possible. Yeah, maybe. And maybe last night he pulls in that home run, but maybe not. Pache just missed it last night. The outfield is clear. It needs some upgrades. Luis Roberts, I believe you're 40 days away from being a Philly. Come on down there.
I know you're really hung up on Luis Robert. I'm not entirely sure that it happens. I am almost entirely.
Somebody's happening, yeah.
Somebody is being acquired, yes.
Sure.
The one name that gets brought up a lot, and I think would be a decent acquisition, is Brent Rooker. I know that he is not your sexy name, right? He's not your flashy name, but he's been really good this year. I think he would be a nice I don't want to call him auxiliary piece because he'd be a starter, but he'd be a really nice plan. And plan B is a bad word to use too. He'd just be a good player to acquire, especially when you need to fill a role. But there's a lot of guys out there right now that I think are on their radar, but nobody's going to make a move just yet. We talked about it a couple
early,
days ago. There are 10 teams right now that are sitting within 3 games of the final wild card spot between the two leagues. A majority of them are under 500, but it's just the National League is slop at the in the middle, and so these teams aren't going to make any kind of season-altering moves until they realize that they're definitively out of it. The Marlins moving Arise as soon as they did was the outlier. It's not going to happen again.
What a terrible organization. Some organizations are so just bad. It's it's insulting. Yes, but I believe we're roughly 40 days away from the MLB trade deadline. To your point, nobody's decided if they're sellers yet. A team like the Astros, do they want to minorly sell off? Do they think they can make a comeback against, somebody like a Seattle? They might. So there's still a lot to be determined here in the next couple of weeks. Dave Dombrowski even said it the other day. It's just way too early, but somebody will happen. I don't think there's any doubt about it. Brandon Marsh.
For the follow-up point with Julian, he says, can they really afford to wait until
they have to?
Yes, I do believe that they can. I mean,
sure.
This pitching staff's been so good. Plus aid in the fact that at some point throughout the course of the season, they've gotten contributions from probably 6 different guys. And you got to remember, like JT's Trey Turner's just on the cusp of returning. I don't know why. Did they give a definitive answer as to why he wasn't in the lineup today?
Scheduled day off.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because he has tomorrow off, so he gets 2 off days. He ease him back in because I think they have 10 days in a row coming up.
Sure. JT's on the cusp of return, within a month? I say the cusp. That's probably
he said he wants to be back before the All-Star game.
So, let's really knock this down to the All-Star break, which is 2 weeks away now. 3 weeks away now. You're talking about a team that will fully have its 2-hole hitter back. You'll fully have, I imagine JT probably slides into the 5 spot, and then you can set the lineup the way that you want to set it. Whereas I feel comfortable with 6 or 7 guys if Stott's bat starts to come around a little bit, and he put together some better at bats this series than he had in the past couple. You start to get to a point where you're feeling more confident with 6 of the 9 bats or 7 of the 9 bats. And then, yes, you can wait on that regard.
Yes, and you're just gonna have to, and we'll see who becomes available. Maybe something exciting becomes available. But the Phillies, when they're making this deal, are gonna want players, I think, with more than just this. I don't think they're in a rental market. I would think anybody they're going for is a more permanent replacement in the outfield because, look, Johan Rojas. They put a lot in his basket, and he was unable to take the job. So Brandon Marsh is probably, I think it was Julian saying, probably better suited as a long-term left field answer.
Oh, I agree. 100%.
And, if you have a chance to get like a Luis Robert, I think you go ahead and do it. But I have 40 more days to not shut the fuck up about that. Because
I'm really glad that you and I are taking vacations at some point soon, because I don't know if I can do another 40 shows of this.
Yeah. So Tyler, here's where I became entrenched in the go get the guy and give them, don't touch Painter and Miller, and you can have a Crawford and Abel and somebody else, plus a Johan Rojas. Just go do it. I wrote out the lineup with an actual pen and paper.
Okay.
And then I put Luis Robert in the 4-hole after Bryce Harper, and then it's really just fun to write out that lineup with him playing center field. It would be all-star caliber type of lineup. So once I did that, I was like, I'm all in.
It's the pipe dream of putting together your MLB The Show roster with somewhat reasonable thought that this could actually happen, right? You're not playing MLB The Show and trading your trade sliders off and going, all right, well, here's Whit Merrifield. You give me Aaron Judge. That type of move. It's a conceivable move that could happen. I'm sure that Dave Dombrowski is, he's got a ton of lines in the water, and he's out there fishing right now and seeing what he can get. This is a lineup that would benefit from a right-handed hitter. I don't disagree.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of have the capability and flexibility to move a lineup around in a way that you have a guy with already 60 RBI maybe moving down towards the lineup. JT Realmuto might all of a sudden be your 7 hitter. You know what I mean? Those are the kind of things that get you excited. And in the interim, you would be comfortable with the roster that they have, knowing Trey Turner's returned, knowing that JT's around the corner, knowing that they are 24 games over 500, despite the fact that, yes, they have struggled at times with runners in scoring position. Their pitching staff has been freaking incredible, and you've built a sizable lead over the Braves, who are still a very, very, very good baseball team. And you're just going to – you're right now you're playing, chop-off series wins. You're playing get to the All-Star break. You're hoping to maybe get to a 56, 57 game, win total by the All-Star break. I forget exactly how many games are left, because I think that 60 might be a stretch to win 11 more games before the All-Star break.
49 and 25 right now.
But, you're talking about being a mid to high 50s win team by the time the All-Star break rolls through.
Yeah, it's pretty great. The Phillies currently it is down to 7 games. Braves are in 7th. And John Foley is going to be joining us momentarily from the ballpark. The Mets, they have Grimace on their side, and apparently the hottest team in baseball ever since Grimace showed up at Citi Field up there. But forget Grimace for a second, and let me tell you about our friends over at Mortgage CS, because right now the housing market is a competitive one. It's a fight out there, and you need people on your side that are going to have your back and educate you as you go through it. Because if you've been through the mortgage process before, you know what a overwhelming experience it can be. You got to make sure your credit's right. You got to make sure your financial records are all in order and ready to go. And you got to help, formulate the best offer you can make. And Mortgage CS is going to help you do all that. This is home financing. It's not a marriage. And you might be shocked at how much money you can save with Mortgage CS. They're an independent mortgage broker right here in the Philadelphia area. That means they're not going to steer you to just one mortgage option or whatever's best for them. They work for you and not the banks. Ben and Alec at Mortgage CS are going to ensure that you have a rock-solid pre-approval, and they're going to take the time to explore anything you want. What a crazy idea, isn't it? That's why Mortgage CS is the mortgage concierge service. And the real estate market right now is so competitive, but you can rely on Mortgage CS to help you understand where you can be flexible in your offer to buy a home without taking on unnecessary risks. So just text Ben anytime. He's the CEO. He's a workaholic 24/7. Even if you want to talk about Ranger Suarez's family in attendance today, just shoot him a text, 267-391-7425. There's a reason people win more with Mortgage CS. So call or text Ben right now, 267-391-7425, and see for yourself. You can also go to mortgagecs.com/PHLY to check them out or view their over 370 perfect 5-star reviews by searching Mortgage CS right now. Tell them PHLY sent you. This advertisement is not a commitment to lend or extend credit. Mortgage CS is an equal housing opportunity mortgage broker. All loans are subject to credit approval. Certain restrictions may apply. Company NMLS ID 1464766. Visit mortgagecs.com for more information.
Yeah, Jamie, you know that I have been a Ben Salem guy basically my entire life, and I would love to be able to hang out or contact our friend Ben to buy a home in Ben Salem eventually, because one of my favorite places to be in Ben Salem is Bet Parks. One of my all-time favorite places is Parks Casino, because I can tell you this, by the time I'm done this read, if you got in your car, by the time I was done this advertisement read, from my apartment, you would be at Parks, because it is literally right around the corner from me. I could be there in 3 minutes. And believe me, I have been there plenty of times because it is my casino of choice. It is one of the premier experiences in the state of Pennsylvania, and they've got a ton going on over the next couple of weeks, next couple of months. The Femmes of Rock play classic rock on violins. They headline at Bet Parks Casino this Friday night. Sebastian Bach, the former lead singer of Skid Row, brings his solo tour the following night, Saturday night, to Parks Casino. And then a little bit further down the line in September, you've got Australian Pink Floyd, something I might consider checking out just because I want to see if they've got a cool light show. And, it's always cool to jam along to some Pink Floyd music as well. Plus, from the TV show Jersey Shore, the It's Happening podcast live with Snooki and Joey are coming to Parks Casino on June 28th. There is so much to do at Parks. Not just music, not just comedy, but there's so many great dining options as well. A collection of award-winning restaurants, including the Parks Grill Steakhouse, the Liberty Bell Gastropub, and Beer Garden. You have delicious sushi at Bamboo Noodle House. There is a ton to do at Parks Casino. And the best thing about it for me, and maybe for some of you as well, is it's local. It feels local. You go in there, you hang out with your neighbors, your friends, you hang out with Phillies fans. You're just having yourself a really good time. So visit parkscasino.com. Parks Casino, this is how you win. Must be 21. Gambling problem. Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Yeah, we'll be joined by John Foley shortly. We do have to pay homage, Tyler, to Willie Mays at some point.
For sure.
Because the game yesterday lost, I think you can argue, the greatest player ever.
I believe it. Yeah.
His godson might have something to say about that. Unfortunately, the steroid thing makes that conversation a bit murky. But yeah, if Willie Mays, the say hey kid, when you think he lost 2 years of his prime at age 21 and 22 to the war, when you think about him playing in that ballpark.
Polo Grounds for as long as he did.
Yeah, Polo Grounds was like 495 feet to center field. He thought he would have had 60 or more home runs had he not played out in San Fran. So, the numbers, when you think about all that stuff, he was in the Negro Leagues at age 16. He played there for 3 or 4 years before going into the major leagues. It's just an unbelievable career. Apparently, everybody in baseball just said he was the greatest dude, the greatest mentor, the nicest, most humblest guy in the world. And you can certainly make the case the greatest baseball player of all time.
Yeah, I firmly do. A career 300 hitter, over 500 doubles, as you mentioned, 660 home runs, and probably could have had more. A 2-time MVP. I think he was a 24-time All-Star.
24. Only, who has the record? He got him beat by one.
I don't know.
Hank Aaron has 25.
That makes sense. I mean, but on top of all of that, a career 550 slugging, a near 1 OPS. He was over one like 9 times in his career. Led the league in home runs a handful of times. And not only was he a great power hitter that we know, like 100 RBIs, a ridiculous amount of times, led the league in stolen bases 4 consecutive years. Just an an elite defender, maybe one of the greatest defenders of all time. And on top of that, like you said, from all accounts that I've ever heard, just a tremendous, tremendous human being, did a ton for the game. One of the stories I was reading was at the 2002 World Series, he had a credential, but it didn't have a picture on it. And I guess the guy at the gate was kind of being like a stickler to not let him in. And everybody around him was like, bro, this is Willie Mays. And the guy's like, well, he doesn't have a picture. So somebody was bringing up old yearbooks and they were showing him like the catch and they were showing him hitting. They're like, This is Willie Mays. Let the man in. So apparently he did like an impromptu a media day when, while they were waiting to get a picture. Just from all accounts, just an incredible person, a great ambassador to the game, and an amazing career to top it all off. So for sure, to me, the greatest player to ever play. I wish I would have had the opportunity to get to watch Willie Mays play the game. But I don't even think highlights do it justice. I don't even think box scores do it justice. Just an elite player and a great person.
Yeah, it was really cool to see all the greats of Major League Baseball paying homage to him last night. I came home. I had a little dude's dinner out, and after the Phillies game, I came home and I was watching Ken Griffey Jr. on Major League Baseball Network. With his like 9 gold gloves behind him, talking about him. And the craziest thing is that Barry Bonds being his godson.
Oh yeah,
arguably 2 of the 3 greatest baseball players of all time, and they had that relationship. I saw a picture today of young Barry with Willie in the dugout, and I'm just like, that's crazy that they end up being the 2 of the best baseball players of all time.
Just absolutely like invaluable moments for a young kid, right? Like you think about impressionable, wanting to learn the game of baseball and being around the game of baseball. Not many better guys to be able to do it than say, hey, this is my godfather. Willie Mays, you might know him.
He used to say, hey, kid. That's what some people call him.
You might know him.
So RIP to a legend. That's man, what a special person he was. So thoughts and prayers out to the Mays family out there. Luckily to hear he went peacefully, surrounded by friends and family. So hopefully everybody got to say their goodbyes and all that. So let's welcome in live from Citizens Bank Park, our own John Foley, fresh off the Rob Thompson press conference. John, what did Rob have to say about today? Just one of them days, huh?
Yeah, it's just one of those days where, these things are going to happen over the course of 162. I don't think there were any big takeaways. I mean, it's just a bummer. Ranger Suarez pitched fantastic. Having his family here for the first time. Rob was asked a little bit about, what he thinks it means to Ranger. And Rob said, he can relate. He spent a lot of time coaching in the minor leagues, didn't always have his family around, and he knows it can be tough on guys. So it's great for Ranger to have his family here. Shane, he pitched fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a shame the team couldn't pick up the win for him.
Yeah, John, the one thing that I noticed over the course of the last couple of days, and you being down there, maybe you can, tell us definitively or not, Bryson Stott's at-bats have looked a little bit better the last couple of days. I think he's squared up a couple of balls hard over, today and yesterday. His at-bats look a little bit cleaner to you? Anything stick out to you as to maybe an uptick of hits, an influx of hits coming soon?
Yeah, his at-bats definitely do look a lot better. He just got into a little bit of a rut there, and the umpires weren't helping him either. It seems like a lot of these bad calls we've lately, Grayson Stott's been involved in a lot of them. For whatever reason, certain guys just seem to not get certain calls, and those balls just off the outside part of the plate. He's, for the most part, he's been right about them not being strikes, but some of them, they've been too close to take. And he's a guy who likes to work to count, patient hitter in a lineup full of free swingers. So it's great when he plays that role. But I do recall back in spring training that they were talking about Stott as the one player that they would want to be actually more aggressive, opposite of the rest of the lineup. And I think he's still working on that. He's getting there. I do think his at-bats have looked better lately. We'll see if he gets there. And you got to think Grayson Stott's going to come around. On the list of Phillies concerns, there feels like a lot of them after the day on a day like today. I don't know if Stott's very high on the list.
John, should we start a petition to make it mandatory that Liam Castellanos attend all Phillies games ever from now until time is over? Does that seem fair?
I think we certainly should. What was it? 2 hits and then the 4-hit game with Liam in attendance. Again, it goes back to Rob's comments. Like, you think maybe it's a coincidence, but maybe not. Like,
I don't think it is.
Yeah, people miss their families. You can see it. Everybody knows they have a very, very special father-son bond, and it can be tough when you're away from your kids. Sometimes it's fantastic, but after a certain point, then you want to be back around the kids.
So, I think Matt Waldron did a really nice job today. Danced out of trouble in the first inning, and then I thought the knuckleball, he was leaving up a little bit in the first 2 innings. Did a really nice job of settling in the latter innings. So, kind of being over top, having that over top view of home plate. What's it like to kind of watch that knuckleball dance, especially when it starts kind of dancing the way he wants it to?
Man, they need to ban that pitch. It doesn't seem fair, especially somebody who uses it like him, where it's just, sometimes pitch. I remember, the knuckleballers of old, at least you knew that was coming every time. And it's, you might struggle with it. To have that, and then the fastball comes firing in. I do not envy the guys that were up there at the plate today. That said, you would have expected maybe a little bit more of an offensive showing than this, regardless of the knuckleball. And hopefully you don't have one of those knuckleballer hangovers where guys' swings get jacked up from trying to chase the knuckleball around. Because from my vantage point, that thing is, I don't know. I don't know how you do it, even when you know it's coming, let alone when it's mixed in with other pitches.
Yeah, it seems unfair. I'm with you. Let's ban it. John, has there been any discussion, whether in the dugout, pregame or postgame in the press conference, I guess for the first time, the really tough schedule coming up that the Phillies have? You have the Arizona Diamondbacks coming in, for whatever reason, always seem to kind of be a headache for the Phils. And then they have a pretty tough schedule going into the All-Star break. Has that come up? Is that on their mind at all? Have you heard any mention of that?
Well, someone brought it up down to Rob's presser just now, asking in particular about Arizona and saying, after the NLCS loss, do you think this is a game that some guys have circled on their calendars, things like that? And, it may or may not be true, but Rob just brushed it off and said, just another game. Each one's just another game. They don't worry about who they're playing. Now, every player is different. I'm sure there's some guys there who are fired up about this. And want to get a tiny bit of revenge on Arizona after last year's collapse. Other guys, maybe it doesn't matter. They just show up and play who they play. But for Rob's part, he's trying to set the example that it really is just another game.
So you're talking about a kind of a run now, right? Like you talked about with this group. And like you said, yes, it's just another game. And I made mention that can they win another 11 games before the All-Star break to get to 60 before the All-Star break? My math is not very strong, as you guys know. There's still, I believe,
We're not here for math.
There's still, I believe, 23 games left until the All-Star break, which is way more than I thought it would be, considering it feels like it's right around the corner. Is there a realistic number for you out of 23 games for this team to, with the good teams they're playing the Dodgers, they're playing the Braves. They've got, like you said, kind of a feisty Diamondbacks team, even though they're not, their pitching staff's decimated with injuries. Is there a number for you, John, for that 23 that feels appropriate?
Yeah, I mean, I hope I'm not overreacting after sort of a bummer loss, but I wouldn't expect them to go much better than 500. I mean, they haven't been playing much better than 500. I think they're pretty much right at 500 over the last 20 or 25 games. You've got Real Muto out of the lineup. I don't know how often they're resting Turner today. I don't know how slowly they're going to bring him along. But you look at these lineups, and every day you sort of see at least 3 or so spots where you're like, well, I'm not feeling confident about that guy. So their pitching is good enough to carry them a long way, and the pitching should keep them in just about every game. The rotation and the bullpen will be right there. Can they get those hits with runners in scoring position? They left so many runners on base yesterday. They ended up pulling it out anyway. Today it came back to bite them. That first inning where they had second and third, no outs, bases loaded, and 1 out, and they failed to score. Things like that, you get the feeling that this is going to come back to haunt us. It certainly did today. The Padres came right down and hit the home run, and their next inning. So I think it's going to be a lot like that. I think to expect up through the break and until JT comes back, I think you're going to have these sort of low-scoring games, close games. The Phillies will be right there. It'll all come down to whether they can get those clutch hits or not with runners on base, or games like the other day when Schwarber just hits a couple of home runs. Even today you had 2 home runs out of Bryce Harper.
Yeah,
you had a dominating Ranger Suarez performance, and you didn't score anything else. You only got the 2 runs. So it's tough here. I would manage our expectations right now. But the beautiful thing is they've built that lead, and they have such a fantastic record that they can weather playing 500-ish a little longer, and then hopefully regroup and really start to make a push after the All-Star break.
Yeah, I think a big part of it was just a horseshit schedule by Major League Baseball to give them post-London. So I think they just need to get home, recalibrate, and I think they'll play slightly above 500 ball again in the near future. John, before we let you go, Friday night is Cole Hamels' retirement night down there. Why did they put out a bobblehead that looks nothing like Cole Hamels?
That monstrosity is absolutely like repurposed from somebody else's bobblehead night, because it's not close to Cole Hamels. I'm not a bobblehead artist myself. I'm not saying but I feel like I could have done better than that. It's just on this big boxy head.
It's like Andrew Knapp or something.
Yeah, I have no idea who it was originally supposed to be.
I saw it. Absolutely Hammered said Tommy Joseph.
Yeah.
Tojo.
Dusted off some boxes from Tommy Joseph. I don't know. But it should be a great night. There's a lot of alumni in town. I know Charlie was sitting watching the game from the press box. I know he's going to be in the studio tomorrow, correct?
Yeah, with
Charlie
Anthony.
With Anthony. So that's fun. So it's always great when there's a bunch of alumni in town. It should be great to see Hamels officially retire as a Philly as he should. It should be great. Everything with the exception of that bobblehead, disrespectful to our 2008 NLCS and World Series MVP.
Yeah, it's a shame.
I kind of want one now though, because
it's so bad that it's good. Yeah,
it's so bad that it's good. I think that needs to go in my collection. I think there's a limited number too, which again tells you they just had some of these.
Yeah, there's only 200 made. I was like,
200.
okay. That's how many.
Okay.
That's how many Tommy Joseph bobbleheads were left over, huh?
Yeah.
But John, we'll keep up the great work. We can read you on allphly.com. Follow you on Twitter at 2008 Phils with a Z. You'll be joining our post-game show on Friday night as well after said Cole Hamels night. So keep it up, and we'll talk to you on Friday.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. See you, John. There he is, John Foley. Make sure you're checking out his writing, allphly.com. Yes, Tyler, the pesky Arizona Diamondbacks are coming into town. We'll dive into this series as the Phillies do have an off day tomorrow, and it is the reason they gave Trey Turner the scheduled day of rest today to ease him back into this. He then gets 2 days off, 48 hours off the legs before a 10-game stretch starts, and it's a tough one. It starts with the Arizona Diamondbacks, and Taijuan Walker gets the bump on Friday night, Zach Wheeler on Saturday, Christopher Sanchez on Sunday, and then you get the Detroit Tigers, and then the schedule gets tough. So I'm in no way, down on their pre-All-Star break entry. Like, I think they're going to be above 500 again. I really think they just had to get home and recalibrate. I think that was a trash schedule by Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I mean, that really sucked to have to be on the road multiple times after a long London series or a long trip to a London series. And we're, like I said, when you get to 23 games, if you go 12-11, let's just say you go 12-11, you go into the All-Star break 61-36.
Woo!
That to me that's better than where I expected them to be. Because we talked about it at the beginning of the season. To me, they were a 93-ish, 94 win team this year because they won
94. I think.
And John was the one that his bold prediction was that they were to win 100 games, and I just assumed that the inconsistencies that have plagued them at times throughout the last couple of years would be enough to keep them back from being 100 win to 35. You have to win 39 more games the rest of the way to get to 100.
That's quick math by you. By the way, why don't they do
39-27 the rest of the way?
Why don't they do the All-Star game at the midway point?
I have no idea. Couldn't tell you why that's the thing. It's always been this week in July. It's like the most boring week of sports in America, in the world. Maybe not in the world. I don't know what everybody else is watching. But like that week, because you and I have both done radio before. We did sports radio for a long time. Yeah. That week sucks. That week really, really sucks for sports radio. So, I don't know why they do it that way, but it's always been the Midsummer Classic type of thing.
Well, that's going to do it for us today. The Phillies do take the series from the San Diego Padres. The recalibration, being back home, being in their own beds, has started. Now the Arizona Diamondbacks come to town. They're not the same Diamondbacks we saw last year in the NLCS, that's for sure. Their pitching rotation is beat up and depleted. Corbin Carroll is not on this tear that he was last year.
It's been weird.
Yeah, they kind of had magic in the bag last year. It's not the same team.
They're just taking him up the zone, and he's obliging. You know what I mean? And you're just going to continue to chase. We're just going to continue to take you up there.
Unfortunately, Ketel Marte is
very good.
Very, very, very good.
Yeah.
So it should be So tomorrow we have Jim Salisbury joining us at 11:30. Tyler, me and you are going to go down on the farm and talk about some of these really exciting prospects that the Phillies have again and do a little check-in there. And then we'll be back on Friday night for a little post-game show. But the Phillies take the series. That's all that matters. Pitching, for the most part, was great. Offense needs to come up with runners in scoring position. I'm not worried about that. That will come around. So to everybody in here in the chat, let's get a little thumbs up on the way out. We appreciate you hanging out with us, spending your time with us. For Tyler Zulli, I am Jamie Lynch, and also on behalf of John Foley. We will see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. We'll be back at our normal time. Tyler, I'll see you bright and early then.
Sounds good.
It's not that early.
We all silly like the mayor.